Welcome back, everybody. This is Bill, and I've got Bob Hickey on the line again. And this particular time, I was debating which topic to talk about, and nothing was coming to mind. And it was about ready time to start recording, and I still wasn't sure what we're going to talk about. And my wife asked me, "So, Bill, what's the topic today?" And I said, "I don't know. I'm waiting for inspiration." She said, "That sounds like a good topic."
I love it. I agree with her.
And what would I do without Wendy?
It's true.
She's amazing. But yes, it is a good topic because how often are, as a creative person, stuck waiting for inspiration? Bob, has it happened to you?
Oh, yes, most definitely. Um, and I think it depends on the project, but an inspiration happens at different points of a project too. So, you'll be within a story and run into a snag, and sometimes you can work through it. Sometimes you sit here and stare at the monitor for long periods of time. Sometimes you start something 3, 4, 5 times and erase it all. So yeah, you can wait for inspiration to strike. And you can force through it too at certain points in time.
Well, let's talk about just first about just waiting. How effective is just waiting? How long can you go before the lightning bolt hits you? And is that necessarily a good thing to be doing?
No, it's not. I don't believe it is. I guess because I have so many different projects in the works, as if something's not working on this project, I jump over to something else. And then all of a sudden while I'm working on something else, oh, that's what I needed over here. I'll either make notes for that or jump back over there and make notes. So when I come back to it, the ideas are flowing and rolling. And
So,
um,
so one great piece of advice is don't be working on one project necessarily from idea to completion.
no, but then,
You
there's
have
some
more than
people.
one thing going on, at least more than one thing percolating in the back of your head, taking notes so that you can kind of switch gears from time to time.
I believe so. I believe so. And it doesn't hurt to work ahead. Like right now, I'm actually in the middle of writing 2 novels for the same series. I
So you've
started the
got two,
main
you got
novel,
two keyboards, two hands. You can write
two
two novels,
keyboards,
right?
2 hands, 2 monitors, the whole works. No, um, basically, there's the core novel, and I started it, and then I'm like, mm, there's this character I want to really take care of before I jump into the main bulk of the story. So I'm doing a prequel novel, and the prequel novel is rolling pretty well. Life and having to work a day job and owning other businesses do get in the way, but it's starting to roll back out again. But I was stuck on the main novel, so I wasn't just waiting to fix. And to me, what I needed to do in the main novel was a major turning point in the story. It sets up, to me, it sets up what the whole next thing's going to be, what the novel has been about. And that's the funny thing is here I'm writing a prequel, and I write something in prequel, and it just clicked. Oh, that's what this is all about. I've known it. I mean, this is what it's all based, but I hadn't really thought of it that way. And I
So
was
knowing
able,
it and knowing it is not always the same thing.
it isn't. And I was able to take that concept, and now I can move the main novel ahead. But I'm still making notes over here because I want to finish the prequel. So, and get it out in the first quarter of next year.
But I think that's an amazing advice for a lot of people because they can get very invested in one project and you want to make progress and make that work. But sometimes you have to step away from it. But that doesn't mean stepping away from all creative activity. You can be doing
No,
something else.
sure. I mean, artists uses like their morning warm ups and stuff like that to get inspiration to figure out maybe some things that they were running into, whether it's storytelling perspectives or whatever. So they'll do their, I call morning warm ups, where they're sitting there doodling and scratching, and maybe it's with a ballpoint pen, something that you normally don't use. Just they change things up to get the inspiration to then dive into the day's workload. Whether it's penciling 4 pages that day or illustrations for a book.
And that's common for artists, but writers can use similar techniques, can't they?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Like I said, you can work on multiple projects, or different things like here at ShoutFyre, I'm writing a couple blogs. So I'll write a couple blogs to take away from the fantasy work that I'm doing in the novels or in the comics. It's a different mindset when you're trying to discuss with people and talk about creating. So that's sort of a break from what I'm trying to do over here, which is then be creative and try to tell the stories and move things along.
Well, one phrase I think I heard you use is work it out. I mean, when
Mm-hmm.
you're stuck waiting for that inspiration, you're thinking of stories, your things are percolating. But I know people, whether it's as an art approach for drawing a story or writing it, that I've been talking to them, how is that story you're working on? I'm working it out. Okay, when's the last time you sat down and put anything,
Mm-hmm.
on a screen, on paper? And it's like, well, it's been months, but I'm still thinking about it. Okay. I think you get stuck in that just thinking about it, where your mind is circling in the same circle, and sometimes
Oh,
you just literally have to work it out.
I agree. I've done that myself where I've had to put projects off because of other things. And, in my mind, I'm always justifying it. Well, I'm just working out all the details and everything. But sometimes you just got to stop, open up the monitor and the screen and sit there and just do it. And you may not like what you write, and then you might delete it and go back in. I've done that many times.
Wait, but you're saying sometimes you have to put down some bad ideas?
Yo, how many bad ideas do you have to put down before you have a good one?
But no, my thought process is perfect. I'm creative. Everything I write is precious.
Here's what I do. Because I'm new to writing novels, as you know. It's always been comics, and it's so much difference between writing for comics artists than it is for writing a novel. I will sit down and reread everything I've previously written every time. If I've been away from it for a little while, I will reread it, and every time I've gone in and edited. Um, and because of not being a novelist yet and coming from comics, it's usually adding more details because I find myself lacking in adding enough details, enough to get it in your head what is going on.
Well, we've
Um,
talked about that where I've read some of
mhm,
what you've written, and I'm like, Bob, I understand the main action, but tell me a little bit about more the setting and what people are wearing. And you told
right.
me, like, well, yeah, but the artist fills that in. It's like, Bob, there's no artist this time.
No artist.
But
Can't,
that's the way your mind first works when you're
yes.
used to working with an artist.
And that's what I'm finding out is what I want to do is I want to go through and get the story down, and then I'll come back to it and reread it and start adding and writing out and doing more details to it. I guess most writers don't do that, but for me, it's sort of like first time I'm a writer, second time I'm an artist, and I'm going back in and writing down the details and more descriptions, and those might change when I'm away from it. So
Well, every writer has their own process, but I think
sure,
the biggest mistake as a beginning writer is to think that the book that you pick up off a shelf, okay, even the comic book script that you read, came from the writer's imagination to the typewriter, and in that particular order that you see right now. It's not the way writers really work. It is more like what you're doing of assembling, putting pieces, then assembling them and polishing them and rearranging and adding, where it's not. And when you try to write a novel as if you're reading a novel, it's
yeah.
never going to. Professionals, the best professionals can't do that. And beginners put way too much pressure on themselves to do things professionals can't do.
Oh, I agree. I agree. And I've decided I'm going to write as I think of the story. I think you even mentioned that my storytelling is unique. I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess we'll see. But
If the story's good, it's good,
all
okay. And if
right,
you're reading it and you enjoy the story, it's good. And but yes, I think we came up with some good, creative back and forth criticisms and
oh, definitely,
improvements.
yes,
But still, you know, but you found the way to make it work for you, and that's what's important.
right, right. I know one thing I do. I had read this somewhere, is that a lot of writers and creators like try to read a book a week. I don't always get a book a week done. But I do try to read some every week, and I'm either reading or I'm listening to audiobooks because sometimes it's a lot easier for me to listen to audiobooks. This has helped me as far as inspiration, as far as seeing how other creators handle things and whether I think, oh, that's a really cool way of thinking of that and writing and detailing that, or I'm like, wow, that's really long-winded. And they filled up a lot of pages and went nowhere. And that's not what I'm about when I'm creating and writing.
But that's
So,
another way of working it out. Of like, I know some creative people who kind of isolate themselves from all other creative things and like, no, I'm working on my project.
mhm.
But you can actually slow you down to be too focused on just your project.
Oh, definitely. Yes.
So if you're only focusing on what you're doing, okay, you're not getting that another perspective. And you can't incorporate every perspective that you get into your own work. Sometimes you're just like, well, that works for this person and not for me. But sometimes it inspires you, okay?
Right.
But
Right.
also it gets your mind thinking in different creative ways, not in just the one unique path that's you, but to see how other people approach similar problems.
Sure. And I think the thing is also like if you're writing sci-fi or creating fantasy books is maybe not always to read or get fantasy books, but documentaries are good. People are still telling stories and they're still describing the certain things, and it makes your thought processes just develop and grow. You can get inspirations from anything out there. You just got to be willing to receive it and be open to it.
Well, when you say getting inspiration from anything, I think too many people who are beginning writers in particular, if say they want to write a fantasy novel, they
Mm-hmm.
look to other fantasy novels for inspiration. And that can be wind up getting a very watered down and version of a better writer rather than your own unique vision.
And I think we've seen that with some of the different series and stuffs that are out there that are taken from Tolkien and Lord of the Rings and these different things. These are just watered down versions of that.
And there are elements that it's not a fantasy novel unless it has certain elements. That's true.
True.
But when you say, find inspiration in a biography,
Hmm.
in a World War II history book, okay, how does that relate to a fantasy novel? Well, you don't know until you try it.
Exactly. And I guess because I'm new at this, I'm trying to learn and, figure out how the best way to do it. So when I'm listening to books, I'm also listening to like how this was put together, how the author, broke it down and how he's sharing it with me. And I sort of do this with movies too. Um, I go to movies and watch shows and stuff. And a lot of them are inspirational. We just saw the latest Star Wars movie and I absolutely loved it. And I know some guys out there just hate it because they think they need to hate, but
Okay. But
I'm always
while we're
out
speaking
there.
of movies, how was Cats?
I have not seen that yet.
Well, no one has, so don't worry.
Oh, okay. It looks interesting. I don't know. I don't know.
But seriously, movies as diverse as that can still influence whatever it is that you're writing.
Sure, sure. But, it's sort of like I'm always open to what that person wanted, the story that that creator wanted to tell me, whether it was J.J. Abrams or whoever, I'm open to that story and enjoy it. And that's why I am when I listen to books. But I am constantly looking at their skills and what got them to that level and the whole process of it all. So I'm inspired by just absorbing as much as I can. Oh, I tell you what, we just recently started, actually yesterday, my wife brought this up, a TV series called Scandal. Have you heard of that? It
Okay.
was on ABC.
Yes, my wife and I watched it. She was a big fan.
We did not watch it on TV because I think they did a horrible job promoting it. I'm thinking, oh, it's about relationships and stuff when I was watching the ads because it went for 7 seasons. We watched the first seven episodes yesterday. It is fantastic. It is the way it's scripted and set up and the way it twists and turns.
And
My
it brings
18-year-old is into it. He goes,
and it
this
brings
is
very much
good.
it takes real world politics, the how the sausage is made look at actual modern politics.
Yes, it really does.
And that is more scandalous than most things you would find on a soap opera.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. But they're, a series that I truly believe they did not successfully promote.
The writer
My wife
creator,
stumbled across it, and it's like, wow, this is cool.
the writer creator had the opportunity to do another year or so of it. She
Hmm.
said, real world politics is getting so absurd that they've outstripped us. There were stories that we wanted to do that we thought
Yeah.
this is so extreme, no one will believe it. And then they saw it on the news and they're like, I give up.
Oh, I don't blame them. Well, they got seven. They got
I
seven
got seven seasons.
seasons, and
Okay. But
but
we're talking about waiting for inspiration. You don't wait for
yes,
it. You're going out and looking for it and finding it. Now, and it's not all work. I mean, you're enjoying listening to books, movies, TV shows, but your brain is working on two levels. One is just, let me just enjoy the story that's being told. But
yes,
there's another level going on at the same time of like, what can I use? What can I find in here?
right,
Not copy, but inspire me to go on in my own direction.
right.
Another thing about the progress of inspiration, does it all come? You have to work. You can't just wait until be hit by lightning. Okay, but even when you're working at it, does the progress come at a steady pace?
Oh no, I think it comes in waves for myself and from other creators I talk to. Inspiration and just being creativeness can come in waves. You can just wake up and go, I can't get to the computer or the tablet or the paper quick enough and go at it. And then there's some mornings it's like, oh, where do I go? Why am I sitting here? What's going on? So you've got to run with it when it's there and get as much information down, and then maybe learn some skills to make additional notes, make side notes on stuff that then when you're not inspired, you can sit here and go, oh, yeah. I want to do this. Okay. Now your notes have now inspired you to get creative and get after it again. So you can self-inspire a little bit.
So there are times to take a break where it's
Oh,
just not
yes.
going to work, where you're forcing it too much and it's time to pull back.
True. I think for art, you can definitely see where creators have pushed through areas, and then some of it's just like, wow, look at that. So,
But
you
the
know,
trick is not to let that break last too long.
that seems to be the ticket. Yes. And you know what? Let's spin this right into ShoutFyre, because I think that's where ShoutFyre is really going to come in for creators and keep people inspired. We're putting together a great set of instructors who's going to be coming out with different types of things that when you get that weekly newsletter, be sure to sign up for the newsletter, and you can maybe be inspired. You can see an article about inking or article about writing or an article about building that fan base. Maybe you created comics and have you not gone anywhere, or you see a podcast on your favorite creator or a creator that you've sort of seen but really know much about, and you go listen to that. That is inspiring. That's why I'm looking forward to do with ShoutFyre, to help inspire and mentor and motivate creators to get out there and draw and to create and to write.
So this is a great way to, to get you refocused, to find a lot of different types of inspiration. I mean, sometimes you need to take that break where your creative efforts are being wasted. You're getting frustrated. You need to take a break. I'm going to go out and cut some firewood. But then you realize, wait a minute, why do I have firewood? I don't have a fireplace. I need to build a fireplace. And then,
True.
okay, so, and on, where you're like, well, wait a minute. Like, you're going too far there. Let's go back to ShoutFyre, see what's going on there, and get you back on track.
Yep. And I think one thing is what we always run into is this is such an isolated business. Majority of us all work from home studios. We depend on social medias and stuff for contacting outside of our little area. So with ShoutFyre, we're going to have the private Facebook group where you can go and share your current artwork, discuss it, talk to people. We're going to be building in a weekly call where we'll do Q&As and chats. It's going to be many opportunities to help people stay creative and keep moving forward.
Because you can have a lot of supportive people in your life, and they still don't really understand exactly what it is you're doing, or why it's good or bad, or or why you're obsessed with getting this next great idea down on paper, one way or the other. But you'll be talking to your people who know exactly what you're going through.
Yes, I agree. And it's sort of like what we do, is because we keep coming back to wanting to keep people motivated in creating comics. And I had a discussion with Bill Nichols. I'm like, why do we always come back to like Sketch Magazine? And, you know, we create comics ourselves, but why do we want to get out and share that with somebody? It's just something we do. Just as writers want to write novels and artists want to draw, painters want to paint. It's just something inside of you that wants to share that. So we're hoping to take our inspiration and inspire other creators, and hopefully those creators go out and share with other creators.
If we didn't have people doing that from the beginning, you could look at the history of comics. There were some great writers and artists that worked in isolation, and there were others that took on mentoring roles and taught other people and shared their techniques. And if it wasn't for those rare artists, writers, editors who were really teachers,
Yes.
as much as they were creators, we wouldn't have half of the amazing talent that we have.
Oh no, I agree. I would definitely agree. And
So,
you know, some future talk we're going to have is where people can take their illustrations and stuff, and I think we'll have to really look at how we can, you know, we take those inspirations and build upon and help them, I don't know, reach their goals.
so bottom line to wrap up this entire thing, don't sit there waiting for inspiration. Keep coming back to ShoutFyre, find inspiration and inspire others.
Yes, and never leave a project unfinished. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's sit there for 1 week or sit there for 5 years. If you feel it, all of a sudden, get in there and finish it. I mean, I've done that myself, and I'm getting ready to do that. I've got some projects I started a long time ago that I've actually been inspired to take in a different direction and develop it. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun time. 2020 is going to be awesome.
It will. Thanks again for your time, Bob. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you, Bill. Take care.